All right, it's time for more TikTok requests. Let's talk about the Fomori. So the Fomori are a new sort of long-standing meta plot going on in Magic. We've learned dribbles about them over the last couple years. They originally come from Future Sight, where we got Fomori Nomad, which was just sort of a vanilla creature. There wasn't anything more to it here, at least until we got Turi Island in the original Plane Chase set, where we learned this was the island home of the Fomori. And they're sort of in this remote island bastion. A couple years later, we got Ruhan of the Fomori, a specific named Fomori, a blind Fomori that sort of lashes out at whoever's close. And we got some scale too, like the little people here compared to Ruhan. But then something interesting happened more recently in Lost Caverns of Ixalan. We learned that the Fomori once invaded Ixalan, and their ruins are still all over the core. In fact, they created sort of a magical Dyson sphere to imprison Chimil, who is the, overarching god of the plane. And we saw our lovable, bumbling planeswalker Quint accidentally wake one of them up at the end of the story. And we see that sort of the artifact tech in the core is very loosely based on Fomori technology. The golems are very Fomori-like in shape. In fact, they sort of match something we see later. That year's plot brought us to Thunder Junction, where Jace and Vraska were trying to get into the Fomori vault there. The Fomori vault was said to have untold riches and treasures. It was on an otherwise abandoned plane. And we learned that during Jace's time with the Infinite Consortium, it's when he learned about the Fomori. He didn't really think very much more of them. He just knew he got sent there because Nicol Bolas was kind of nervous about these guys. It's not clear how much of a threat Nicol Bolas thought them to be, but they were clearly an ancient interplanar empire. What they really got out of the vault was Loot, who ostensibly is a Fomori, but has a different typing. He's not a giant, he's a beast. But he's got the white hair, the beginnings of the white mane, and the little horns. So he might one day grow up to be like one of these guys. We don't really know. What we do know is that he's got a map of the multiverse in his head. And while Jace and Vraska use this for their own purposes, culminating in Thunder Junction, it's very interesting that a creature with a map in his head was imprisoned in this vault. We also see the technology that the stuff from Lost Caverns of Ixalan was clearly based on, which is these Fomori suits, this sort of high-tech battle armor they've got. And we know that on the Edge of Eternities, the Fomori were once there, and they fought a war against the Eldrazi, until one day they basically just disappeared from the Edge. We also know in Lost Caverns of Ixalan, they seem to be running from something when they landed on Ixalan. And nowadays, the only place we know about them existing in the multiverse is a very remote island where they are at very low levels of technology. What happened in the interim? We don't know yet. And that is basically everything we know about the Fomori up until this point. I'm going to be catching up on my backlog of these TikTok requests. If you have one you want to add to the pile, put it in the comments.